Welcome to the Writer Dojo with your host, Steve Diamond.
I'm not dead yet.
And Larry Correia.
It's too early in the morning to come up with a movie quote.
Today's episode, First Time Novelist with Josh Hill.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Writer Dojo. Glad to have you all with us today. This episode kind of continues a bunch of the interviews and presentations, live Q&As that Larry and I are doing at the Writers Cantina in Utah. So this episode is specific. We're recording it early on a Saturday morning because whenever Larry and I go anyplace and do these recordings, it's either really early or really late.
Pretty much, yeah. And we were going to do more last night, and they threw us out of the building.
Yeah. Apparently, this building's curfew is like 5.
Yeah, so didn't realize that. If you guys hear background noise, apologize for that, but we're like hiding in a corner.
Yeah.
And so we'll see how this goes.
Yep, it's just added flavor for you. Okay, so in the last episode, we were talking with our boy Rick Cutler, who is he is brand new to writing in terms of getting published and stuff. He has, I think, 5 short stories out now with Raconteur Press. He's really just getting into it. And I really enjoyed hearing his new perspective. Before we get into introducing our current guest for this one, who is also a new author breaking into the business, but with novels in this scenario, this popped in my mind yesterday after we'd finished recording with Rick. And so, that did me no good then. So I'm going to say it now. When Larry and I first started this, a lot of the perspective was, okay, Larry is the dude who's been doing this forever and has a gajillion books out. Steve is the dude who has nothing out and is the complete and total newbie who's written a few short stories. But over the past 3 years, a lot that perspective, especially on my side, has changed.
I've just gotten older.
You've just gotten older.
Fatter.
Yes. Not that much fatter.
Grayer.
Definitely grayer.
You've published a lot more stuff, though.
Yeah. I mean, basically within the last, let's call it 1.5 to 2 years, I think I've put out 6 or 7 books.
Yeah.
So, and lots of short stories, et cetera, et cetera. So my perspective has changed a little bit. And so I really like speaking with new authors.
And this is a guy that me and you have known for many years.
Many years.
I've known Josh. How long have I known you?
Since 2005 is when we first met.
Yeah. And you guys, and I was talking about this yesterday with Josh. The first time I met Josh, dude looked like a total badass.
Yeah.
In that he had been in Iraq the day before, and he was in my house the next day.
Yeah, I was like literally come from combat.
How are you awake?
Into Utah.
So our guest today is a friend of ours, brother of ours, Josh Hill. We've known Josh forever. He's in our gaming group. Fantastic guy.
I try.
Loves horror like we do.
Oh yeah.
Writes horror like I do. Fantastic guy. So Josh, thanks so much for making a little bit of time out of this convention to come chat with us. We appreciate it.
All my pleasure. Trust me.
So Josh, how about you start by introducing yourself? Talk about your new book that's coming out. By the time this airs, your book is probably going to be out. And then kind of give us the brief history of Josh and how you got into the business and why you started writing and so on and so forth.
Okay. Gentle listeners, my name's Joshua Hill. Like I said, friend, brother to these wonderful men. My background is mostly military and law enforcement. Even though that's not what I write, but I use a lot of those experiences in my writing. I spent 14 years in the military, 4 or 5 years as a cop. I don't remember. I try to forget those times, but it's just been a journey, because while I've had all these careers where you're outside, that's tough, it's guns and shooting, my true passion has always been in storytelling. So when I went to college, I went to a tiny little private school in the middle of the Appalachian Mountains called Southern Virginia University. And they happen to have a professor there by the name of Orson Scott Card. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I hear he used to write something. I don't know.
I think he's big in Japan.
Yeah.
He taught creative writing classes, ironically enough. And so that's where it really started. I never really wrote anything before that. I've always been a reader. Like my first book I think I ever read was Ringworld by Larry Niven. Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic. Huge Larry Niven fan. And I've been a fan of sci-fi ever since. But in my first movie I remember watching as a little kid was The Thing. So
Okay.
So that's my background.
This
That
explains a substantial amount.
It explains a lot.
Still a freaky movie, man.
Still holds
Love
up.
that movie.
Holds up.
But that's where my writing really started. And so he was the most harsh critic you can ever. He wasn't mean or angry about it, but he was harsh. He would break down what you write sentence by sentence and word by word, sometimes even letter by letter. Like, so I learned from School of Hard Knocks on how to write. Not that, but it still took me years and years to finally get to that point. It was my brother, Zach, my twin, who was the real writer. Like, that dude can write novels so fast, and they were good. And so he was mine. And I think one of the reasons why I never started earlier is because I had Zach. Zach was the writer, and as twins, like, we try to break twin stereotypes. I always try to do something else, so, but after he died, me and Patrick Tracy and Paul Janess, we got together and tried to finish the book that he had started writing. Sakura, Intellectual Property.
It's fantastic.
It is an emotional ride for sure to finish that. But then that started me. It's like, I need to continue this legacy. It's like, I need to keep writing for Zach. And so using what skills I learned from Orson Scott Card. The funny thing is, I started writing the book the same week the WriterDojo started. So every week, dead serious. It's so, like, every week I'd learn something on the WriterDojo, and then have to go back and fix something in my manuscript and rewrite it. And because, like, you guys did an episode on point of view, and at that point I was in, like, chapter 10 of my first draft, and I'm like, oh, I got to go back and rewrite everything. So I had to go back, which thankfully
I feel slightly bad.
No.
If it's better,
I know.
we're good.
If it's better, then I feel then it deserves it.
Yeah, I don't have an ego, so anything that can help make my book better, I am all about. So so the WriterDojo, I'm only published right now because of the WriterDojo, and that's not blowing smoke up any orifices. That is fact.
We've heard that a lot
A
over
number
the
of
last
times, yeah.
couple years. It's ever increasing, and we're starting to show up in the thank yous of a lot of books and acknowledgments.
Yeah,
and
that's crazy.
it's crazy.
You guys might be in actually all three of you are in the thank yous in my book. So,
Nice.
Oh, speaking of my book, it's called Forever Fields.
Okay.
It is a historical horror book with a romance element.
Okay.
It's funny because when I started writing it, I actually wanted to write a romance novel with a slight horror element, but the horror was just so much fun to write.
Well,
it just turned into a horror book. Comes out July 5th. So, like I said, by the time this comes out, it'll be out.
It'll be out by the time this airs.
Yeah, so check that out, and I think we'll
probably have a commercial for it in the middle of this break. So, whenever this break happens.
And so, Forever Fields, like I said, historical horror. So, like I said, a lot of this comes from my background as in the military and as a combat veteran.
Well, and you're also a big history guy.
Oh, I have a history degree, but I never let education get in the way of my learning. So
Smart man.
I keep learning history. History is a passion for me. I love it. So the idea of me, like, being able to study to write historical fiction, that was super fun for me, and I loved it. Now it's about a female World War I veteran who gets horribly wounded in the last days of the war.
I remember this when you said that, and somebody yelled at you on the internet about this.
Because
and I was like,
apparently having a female character is woke now. I guess.
Well, and also that she was a veteran of World War I.
Yes, that's right.
And I was like, dude, you're picking the wrong fight. I was like, Josh is a history major. I was like, here it comes.
Yeah.
There were several thousand female veterans. They were mostly nursing corps, which is what my character was.
Yeah.
Just because you're a nurse in the back line, it doesn't mean you can't get wounded.
Well,
especially in a war of artillery.
Well,
yeah,
and,
exactly.
and to bring in the horror element in that, I mean, the nursing corps experienced very real horror on a daily basis.
Oh, and that definitely comes into play in the book, because the book is a lot about PTSD. And so that in the PTSD, it's like a lot of the parts in the book are, you have to, as a reader, decide if it's the PTSD or if it's actually something supernatural happening.
Sure.
So you have that dichotomy there.
That's cool. I mean, I talk about it all the time. Robert McCammon, one of my favorite authors ever. But when he writes his historical series, he's often having the reader try to decide if this is supernatural or superstition. You know, like, is it supernatural, or is it just the hard times that person has been dealing with? And it sounds like you're kind of straddling some of the same lines. That's
Joe
cool.
Lonsdale does the same thing.
Yeah,
too,
100%.
Where it'll be like these little weird elements, and it's just like, do the people just believe weird crap, or is there really
weird crap?
Really weird crap living in the swamp?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's actually kind of a really cool.
Well, and you can
storytelling
do it in historical fiction.
Oh yeah.
I think much better than you can do it in modern fiction, because there's no technology.
Well, and it was so not very well known at that time either. It's like, it's shell shock is what they called it, and they didn't really have an understanding of it. And so all these symptoms that she's experiencing, they're not really sure what that is. So in the course, the main character doesn't know. It's like, is it supernatural? Is it PTSD? It's like, because all these supernatural elements, and spoiler alert, it's supernatural.
It's a horror novel.
It's a horror novel.
It's a horror novel, guys.
This is not a psychological thriller. But like, they follow the same symptoms of what we now know as PTSD.
Nice.
And there's also something else controversial about this. The main character is a lesbian. And I have multiple reasons for it, none of which fall into the woke category. Because I wanted a character who was isolated physically, because she's out in the middle of nowhere in Utah.
Northern-ish Utah.
Northern-ish Utah. She's isolated.
Social Skull Valley or something.
No,
Morgan.
It's actually.
Did you put in Morgan?
It's Morgan. It's Morgan. It's 100% Morgan.
It is pretty isolated.
It is.
It is.
Especially at that time period.
Yeah, it is
right?
probably even way smaller than it is now. And not that it's a thriving metropolis.
They have a McDonald's now.
So I want her to be like isolated in every way possible. I also.
So you're talking, because isolation is a massive horror trope.
Yes.
I mean,
and I wanted to dig into that.
we have all talked about that frickin' all the time. That's one of the biggest, the biggest ways to cause fear, dread, and shock is through isolation.
Exactly.
And so correct me if I'm wrong, but so you're going for the actual physical isolation of location, but also the stigma of isolation because of who the person is and what what she believes.
Right, because she's a woman. Because the concept of gay and straight didn't really exist at that point, but her unwillingness to go with social norms. So let's put it that way. And so and spiritually isolated. It's like every kind of isolation I could think of, I try to pile it on.
Yeah,
also, I kind of wrote this as like a tribute to like the women I did serve with who were gay, like who weren't able to express themselves and be themselves. It's like, they're here, they're in Iraq, they're fighting and dying just like we are.
They're doing their thing.
They're doing their thing, and they're not allowed to like be themselves or express themselves.
Sure.
And so this is a way to like show that they could be heroes too.
Nice. So, okay. So let me ask you this. When you started out doing this, when you started out, you initially said it was going to be romance, and then it thankfully morphed into horror. Real quick. Where was the moment where you went, you know what, F this is horror?
Chapter 1.
That was the right answer. I gave him a fist bump off
That said, though,
camera.
for marketing purposes, man, I would lean into the romance angle.
Well, the good thing is you can. You still can, right?
Oh, and I do.
Yeah. And that's the
I'm just saying, because the market between like the size
money
of those two markets,
the money of it. Yes.
they dwarf us.
Oh yeah, romance makes so much, which is honestly why. Like, I had a little money symbols in my eyes when I was writing that.
Well, no. So you asked the question yesterday. Well, for the listeners, it's several weeks ago. In the live show that we did, which was, branching out into different genres and stuff. And I believe my response was, if you want to do this as a living, follow the money.
Right.
And we had Jeff Haskell on a couple weeks ago, and that was, a very similar comment when you're going into your small press, and that's follow the money. And so that makes sense, man.
Well, it's a tough business because we have to balance our artistic creativity and our ability to
Oh,
create
yeah.
and make art with the fact we need to make a living off of it, and that's a fine balance. And so recognizing that if you can market something as romance to that giant and thirsty audience,
No pun intended.
yeah, that is huge.
Or maybe pun intended.
Actually intended on
Yeah.
that one. Yeah, they're pretty thirsty, but
Yeah.
still, there are a lot of them. It's a lot of people.
Oh, I mean, they make us look like peasants as far as
Oh,
sales
they make
go.
so much more money than we do.
Yeah.
So much money.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
I have actual 100% romance books thought out. I just need to write them. But my publisher, Wicked House Publishing,
Right.
They're the ones that picked me up. They would much prefer I write horror.
Sure, well, that's their
Oddly
thing.
enough, yeah.
They're basically a horror thriller house.
Yeah, and so my editor, when we're going through my draft, he's like, "You need to pick one." It's like, your audience is horror, so let's just lean into the horror, like even more than I already was.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, because I still had, I was trying to keep like a 60-40 balance of horror and romance. He's like, "No, let's do 80-20."
80-20?
Yeah,
That
80-20.
makes sense. All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're gonna kind of talk with Josh about kind of his journey, the lessons learned, the craziness of getting in here. That moment when you got that contract, or when you got that email that said, "Heck yes, we want you." Okay, we'll be right back.
Wounded World War I veteran Elsie retires to a reclusive and mysterious house left to her by her dead father, only to be caught in the throes of love and eldritch terror as romance mixes with Prohibition-era dark magic and evil cults in this daring horror story. Elsie is a former debutante who only wants to isolate herself and heal from her physical and emotional wounds when a dark and malevolent hole appears in her fields. Forever Fields is a dark, historical horror novel with a romance subplot set in the year 1920 and is being published through Wicked House Publishing with a release date of July 5th. Pre-order is available now for Kindle, with paperback pre-order coming soon. The WriterDojo has been instrumental in helping me write this book and get it published, and I encourage everyone to listen to and put into practice what they learn from Larry and Steve.
All right, everybody, welcome back. All right, so first half, people got to know our buddy here, Josh, a little bit here, and but kind of like I mentioned at the very, very top of the episode, it's really cool to get the perspectives of folk who are kind of just breaking in, who have had their first taste of success, and that's what I want to talk about with you, Josh, and that's. We'll just start with this. And this is a very easy question. What was it like when you submitted your manuscript and you got back the response of, "Yeah, you. Come on board, kid."
Well, because I had been querying for like 8 months at that point. I have an entire folder of rejection letters.
Yeah, we're going to be doing an episode here pretty quick about handling rejection because it is a thing, man. It is brutal.
I mean, because you hear about it and you always tell yourself, I know
I'll
I'm
be
going to get
good.
rejection. Yeah, I'll be good. I understand what I'm going through. No, you don't. Not until you get.
You think you do, but man, it's still a kick every time.
I got rejected by a publisher who specialized in Western horror LGBT, which is exactly what I wrote. So that one hurt. That one hurt. It was a painful process. You can understand it mentally, but until you actually go through it, it is painful. And
So real quick, I'm sure that did your rejection letters kind of run the gamut of like get lost, kid, to you're almost there?
I had like 3 or 4 like really complimentary ones. They're like we actually love the story, we love the writer voice, etc. It's just not a fit for us. I'm like, oh, okay, at least I'm.
See, I hate
getting
that.
there.
I hate those rejections.
Yeah, well, it's hard because
I hate
those are
those.
nice, but you're like, being almost there is almost more painful than
Yeah.
just getting kicked.
Yeah.
Where they just like, here's the form letter that says you suck.
Oh,
You know?
one of my first rejections for Residue was oh man, I love this book. There are scenes in this book that I'm going to remember forever. This is some of the best, the coolest stuff I've ever seen. No. I'm like, well, I hate you.
Well, because it's even worse, because you're all like, well, what do you want from
Like, do I need
me?
to come like make you brisket or something?
do I need
Like,
to
what the
come like make you
crap? Brisket or something? Like, what the crap?
Well, I come from the school of Orson Scott Card, so anything harsh, is fine. So having something positive, that actually did give me encouragement to
Nice.
keep going. But most of them were just form letters, and I'm like, okay, I'll toss those into the file to shoot with my shotgun later.
I blew mine up with Tannerite.
I'm going to use my shotgun.
I did. I used a 2-liter bottle of Tannerite and set. I think you might have been. Our buddy Dave is here too, watching.
Yeah, our buddy Dave is sitting in
I think you
nonverbal.
might have been here. Were you there when I blew up the Tannerite? I had a shoebox full of rejections. Oh, okay. Yeah, so I nuked
doesn't
that
think
sucker.
so.
Well, I'm going to use Zach's shotgun. I think it's fitting.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
But yeah, so I started like going in, like when I first started, like, okay, I got my manuscript complete. I've done, I did like 2 or 3 months of every editing, try to get it. So once I started putting out there, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm ready. Now what do I do? I wasn't sure where to go to find publishers to submit to.
Yeah, I mean, you and I had a lot of back and forth
Oh, yeah.
exchanges. You were like, "Have you heard of these guys? Have you heard of these guys? Have you heard of these guys?"
Yeah.
Again, it goes back to one of the questions we had in our live show, and that was like, "Okay, how do you know if the publisher's legit, or if the editor's legit, or the agent's legit, or if they're just a scam?" And a lot of that's just asking around, like what you were doing.
Yeah, I was using every resource possible. Google searching. If I couldn't Google it, I'd ask somebody that would know. I found this one website that had a list of a bunch of publishers, and I would just blindly start submitting to those. It wasn't until Dave told me about a certain website, the Submission Grinder.
Say hi, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
So Dave told me about Submission Grinder. He's like, yeah, Julie Frost, the other
Oh yeah, another author,
other great author.
friend of ours.
He's like, she uses this to find her publisher for her stories. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll give it a shot, and that was a game changer. It's like it made the submission process so much easier because I could filter by exactly who was looking for my stuff. And once I found that, it was only like a dozen more submissions before I found my publisher.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so after that is real quick, and it happened to be the last publisher I submitted to. Of
course,
because it's like after this, if I get rejected, I'm just going to self-publish. But it's the last one I sent to, they accepted.
Yeah, and as you know, I mean, you listen to the whole show, you know, self-publishing is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Whole different game, whole different challenge.
And I knew self-publishing could be very lucrative if you do it right, if you do the marketing right. But I really wanted to get a publisher just for my own ego.
Oh,
I
hey,
bet that.
nothing wrong with that, man.
No, that is part of it.
It's like,
Honestly.
I just wanted to know I could do it. And
Well, there's being able to fire and forget too, and having somebody handle a lot of the stuff for you is really nice.
yeah, 'cause-
Especially like when you have a day job like you do, like I do.
But there's pros and cons to both. You know,
and
honestly.
I'm broke. I can't afford an author, or I can't afford a cover artist. I can't afford an editor. So this really was the best way for me. And,
Nice.
And like it's not like one of the big publishers. It's a small indie publisher, but I mean they are already making waves in the horror community. Like their books usually their first week are at least in the top 10, usually in the top 1 and 2.
Huh? That's cool.
Of U.S. horror, not like small, horror minotaur milking
Easy.
Eat left-handed Finlanders,
exactly. No, we were talking like
pancake recipe.
we're talking like the big categories,
Like
so.
the actual category of horror.
The actual U.S. horror or UK horror.
Yeah, I used to always be able to hit number 1 in urban fantasy, which is huge, until Amazon decided that paranormal romance and urban fantasy needed to be gathered again.
That
And-
romance taking over.
Oh,
telling you.
dude, and like, so if I'm top 10, and which I'll be crushing it if it was urban fantasy, but they just lumped. So I hate how they do that, but it is what it is. Something you said during the break I want to bring up, just 'cause I thought it was kind of awesome. So your book releases July 5th. So this episode will be airing after this, but so July 5th is also your anniversary with your wife.
My 18th anniversary with my wife. I met her while I was in Iraq.
So book release date and your anniversary.
Serendipity.
All on
That's
the
pretty-
same day.
That's pretty rad.
It was fate.
Yeah.
Nice.
That is pretty
100%.
rad.
I'm curious. I like asking new authors about this. How was your first edit? What from your publisher?
It was more brutal than the rejection letters. It was a bloodbath. Like you've mentioned on the WriterDojo, killing your darlings, or is that the term? Yeah, I had to erase an entire point of view character out of the book.
Oh.
Yeah, it was that.
Oh,
brutal.
that's a literal killing your darling.
Literal killing my darlings.
Wow.
Yeah, it was definitely 100% the right call. But like I said, I don't have an ego. I'm doing this to make the book better, and it hurt. It hurt, but
It's hard. Taking edits, especially for the first time, they're like, because you think you're pretty good, and you might be pretty good, but editors, they're there to like, they're there to like shine the lights on your blind spots.
oh, they do.
And not just that. If you're going through if you're receiving edits for say a story in a very specifically themed anthology, right? There are certain requirements that the editor of said anthology has. Same with like a specialty house that has like look, we do horror this way, and so like if you want to play, a lot of times you have to say, okay, I'm going to follow. It's just another type of guideline that they have to be published with them. And I'm sure that had to do with some of it.
Absolutely, and my editor, he's also one of the authors for the publisher.
Sure.
And his books are scary.
Yeah.
Like his name is Andrew Najberg. He wrote, I hope I pronounced that right. And he wrote a book called The Mobius Door, and he just released like an apocalyptic horror book called Galatok. It's like Eastern European prison island. Really creepy, really good. So he knows what he's talking about. So when he tells me you need to change this, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to listen to this guy.
Sure.
Yeah. As you get more experience too, you'll be able to see. It's like sometimes editors are wrong, but when you're new, just listen to the editor.
Absolutely.
Honestly, unless it's obviously gallingly stupid.
Yeah.
They're probably right. But as you get along, because me and Steve were going to talk about that
We'll
on
have an
another
episode
episode.
on that later.
Because sometimes you can get funny edits. They're like, what?
Well, I only rejected one of his edits, and it was is gun related.
Well, in that case, you're probably right.
Because in the book, the character shoots somebody like right in the chest, and they fall down dead. And he's like, that realistically, they wouldn't fall down dead. They'd probably breathe out. I'm like, from personal experience.
You just be like, you're like, dude, I'm a better shot than you.
Like from personal experience, I'm going to say this happened.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
So that was the one edit I refused. I'm like, no, I'm keeping that.
Yeah, trust me on this one, dude. Yeah, Josh is going to win this one.
Yeah. So I'm curious what you found to be the biggest challenge through the writing process as you were like getting into this.
So the hardest part was for me is just having the confidence to do it.
Sure.
And that's why the WriterDojo was so instrumental with me getting published, is because it demystified everything. It's like, you can do this, and here is how. And so, like, I had to get over my own insecurities, had to get over my...
like imposter syndrome type stuff.
That's the exact phrase I was thinking of, because I still have that in spades,
Hey.
imposter syndrome.
Oh, you will.
Join the club.
and I still will. But
Welcome to the club. We accept new members all the time.
But if Jason Momoa says he has imposter syndrome, and he's one of the coolest people out there, then it's okay if I have it too.
I'll even tell you what's coming next. Because we've all gone through this process. Next, the book's gonna come out, and you're gonna be on top of the world, and people are gonna say mean things about it.
Yep.
Guaranteed. But when that happens, just remember, the audience is really big. It's a really big world. You're not gonna make somebody happy. Yeah. And
Or as Jack Sparrow said, but you have heard of me.
Well, and the book hasn't come out, I'm already making people unhappy. So.
Yeah, just by talking about it. And I was like, when the guy started arguing about history, I was like, oh, dude, no. I guarantee Josh has done the research on this.
Oh, yeah.
But honestly, the demystification thing it's a thing.
It is.
Every step of the way, there's all this mystical bull crap just around. We don't have the beeper, so I had to stop myself there. There's all this mystical stuff around what we do, where people think it's something it's not. Right. And every step of the way, there's challenges. And even if, so the next step is people are not going to like you. Some people are going to like you. Some people are going to love you. That's awesome. Cater to those people. Step after that is all the messy business stuff. And then you got to do it again.
Yeah.
After all this months of editing, I'm ready to just write again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Editing is work. Writing is fun.
Exactly. And that was hard work, especially since this is my first book. Lots of mistakes, lots of editing. And I've already learned a lot from my editor. And I've gone back and re-edited some of my short stories, which have now been published as well. I have one that came out last week with Hinchman Press, friend of the dojo, with their E4 Mafia anthology.
Yeah.
And that's a fun story.
They're
all great. But I also sold another one to my current publisher. They're doing an anthology of short stories, and it helps to have those short stories already written.
So what's next? What's next for you? Do you have your next project in mind?
Next project, yes. And Michael Rothman actually already wrote the pitch for it. He's good at that. Appalachian horror folklore.
Nice.
With no spoilers, but yeah, it's very the song in the Pines is big inspiration, because all my books, everything I write is always inspired by music, and so In the Pines is
actually, this is pretty rare, because I've had conversations with you from when you were a cop, doing some stuff in the backwoods, and there was one time.
Oh, I got stories.
Yeah, one time you were sharing a story, and it said something about you were talking about. You said something about like working the night shift. I can't remember how you phrased it, but you were working the night shift in the backwoods there, and it was very much horror movie. We were sitting on my back porch or my front porch, and you were telling me this story, and I was like, "Oh yeah, you got a lot of good horror elements to draw upon here." You know, it was very much like Raylan Givens in the backwoods. Only some weird stuff goes down.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's in the hollers.
And in my book, some of the stuff in there, which might be surprising, it does come from my real life experiences.
Yeah. So I mean, dude, if you can draw on that stuff to set a creepy story.
Oh yeah.
Heck yeah, that's gold, because that's hard to fake. But if you're telling it like how you felt,
because,
that's gold.
Because you can write the emotion as you feel it, as you felt it.
Oh yeah.
You know that. I mean, you know, I joke about the shark story, right? And
Yeah.
and talking about the fear.
But you're genuinely scared of sharks.
I am, and I mean, I mentioned that story briefly in my novel Residue. Yeah, that was my story. Like, I've done that. I've told that story. I've been there. I've been in that shark cage. It's not great. Well, I mean, it is for everyone who listens to the story, but for me, it wasn't great.
I remember how you said night shift in the haunted forest.
Night shift in
the haunted forest.
That's actually a great title.
No, but so this is Josh's title though. Josh is who said it, and he was just I was working night shift in the haunted forest, and I was like, damn.
That's great.
Yeah, it's like I got real life military experiences to draw from and real life spooky stuff to draw from.
That could be your series title.
Do you guys want to hear the short blurb, Michael?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, so in the shadowy depths of a town haunted by dark secrets, the vengeful spirit of a murdered girl stirs, her wrath a chilling testament to the town's unforgivable failure. Rebecca, guided by her newfound Cherokee friend, embarks on a harrowing quest to confront the unspeakable terror spawned by a wicked pact between the forsaken girl and an ancient forest god.
Nice.
Oh man, that's good.
Yeah, he made
That'll
it
be
sound
fun.
so cool.
Okay, Rothman does. He's good at that.
Rothman's really good.
He's
at
really
blurbs. really good at blurbs.
And he just did that for fun on the WriterDojo once.
He's kind of a pimp of marketing. Like he is like he's good at that.
I mean,
he's good at marketing.
He did the same thing for me for Residue Parasite Catalyst, and he sent me the blurbs. I'm like, dude, these are way better than what? Why do I even bother?
Dude, I'm a trash blurb writer. I'm
I'm
terrible. Most of my blurbs are written by Bayan. Somebody at Bayan wrote my blurbs because I can write the book. You asked me to write about the book for 2 paragraphs.
No.
It's gonna suck.
Yeah, he just did that for fun, and it turned out way better than anything I could write.
You're just like, well, okay.
It's like, I'm stealing this. I even asked him permission. Can I steal this? He's like, yeah.
Yeah, we've had episodes about blurbs, and I'm just like,
Yeah, I'm garbage.
Screw that.
I think we had Dave Butler on, and Dave Butler talked about how to write blurbs because I can't.
No.
I'm trash.
Which I also have to thank Dave Butler for, his help on me writing my pitches and getting it published.
I love there's the extended dojo family of dudes who are really helpful, just helpful people. Yeah, I love it. I freaking love it.
That's our community. That's the dojo.
Yeah, it's been pretty rad.
All right. That's all the time we have for you today. Josh, bro, thanks so much for coming on the show. We
Love you
appreciate
both.
it, man. Thanks so much. And congratulations on, well, for us, when this airs, congratulations on your book having come out as of right now. Congratulations on your book coming out next week.
Nice. I'm excited and terrified.
Oh, yeah, sure. And that will never change.
True. That never changes.
All right. This is the Writer Dojo. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.
Writer Dojo is Steve Diamond and Larry Correia. Produced by Jack Wilder and Bear and Hare Studios. Theme song, Word Mercenaries by Craig Nivo. New episodes come out every Wednesday wherever you stream your content. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can help support us by going to anchor.fm/WriterDojo, by leaving a 5-star rating and review, and by helping to spread the word. To advertise on the Writer Dojo, email ads@writerdojo.com. All questions and comments can be emailed to questions@writerdojo.com.
Here's the form letter that says you suck.